You're listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is a program called Ignite Yourself, Living Life on Your Terms. And it's our pleasure, as always, to have in the studio Carol Reid. And for those looking at this program on YouTube, say good day, Carol.
G'day, Carol. G'day, Ken.
This is actually take two because we forgot to turn the camera on. But anyway, Ignite Yourself, Living Life on Your Terms. Just to remind our listeners before we get into today's topics, we've got three great topics to talk about. What does Ignite Yourself, Living Life on Your Terms actually mean?
It's an interesting one because it doesn't mean that you are all about you and not about others. And it doesn't mean that you become the selfish, hedonistic person. It does mean that you recognise that you have your own individual power and that you step up and take use of that power and step into your own power. So it's really about looking at your life and recognising what is it that makes me happy, what is it that makes me unhappy. This is in really simple terms, and then working out a plan of action from there. It doesn't mean I'm going to get rid of this person, I'm going to get rid of all these things. It does mean, though, that you recognise that you're going to work with those people in a different way.
I suppose when you look at that title, though, is it all about empowering yourself to do what you want to do when you want to do it? Or in the real world, though, we have to compromise a lot, don't we?
We do have to compromise, and it's not suggesting that you don't do that. It's just that where do you compromise? Because we've all got a choice on how we compromise and what we compromise on. So what's going to be the best compromise in the situation right now? And it's about living a little bit more in the now and not so much in the worry about what's happening tomorrow and the worry about what happened yesterday, because we're such worry-warts, and honestly 99% of what we worry about doesn't even come true.
No, that's right. But just take it a step further. You and I are married. You were sitting at home. You said,
"Oh, goodness gracious, look out!"
You didn't know that. But you want to watch Coro. I don't. Living life on your terms, living life on my terms. We're going to end up watching Coro, aren't we?
No, what we're going to do is we're going to get another TV so that I can watch what I want to watch and you're going to watch Coro. Or I'm going to go over to my girlfriends at Coro time and I'm going to see them. Or actually, you're going to go over and see your mates and watch Coro together. Yeah. I mean, there's different ways of skinning the cat, and so it's just really, settling in and thinking, okay, if I want to make this, do I want to make this compromise? And if so, and something like that, of course, why wouldn't you? You'd work out a way to make it work.
That's right. So
often it's the camel that the straw that takes
the camel's back.
Yes, sometimes.
Exactly
yeah,
right.
The fact that you want to watch Coral and I don't, that can be it. Right, that's the end of it.
Anyone who doesn't like Miss Nugent. Remember Miss Nugent?
No, I have never been a Coral fan, I've got to tell you. So we'd have trouble from the get-go, Ken, sorry.
Right, we're out. You're out. Okay, if I want to ignite myself and live life on my terms, where do I come and see you?
So you can reach me at my website, www.soulpreneurs, so SOULpreneurs, like an entrepreneur, .co.nz, or give me a bell on my mobile, or email me, carol@soulpreneurs. But essentially, I love working with individuals, I love working with groups, schools, businesses, all sorts, to really get them centred in on what it is that they want to feel, because when we're clear on how we most want to feel, we have that whole clarity for our life.
You empower people to feel good about themselves, don't you, really? Is that what it's all about?
Yeah, well, I certainly allow them to see the best of themselves, because, we've all got this massive inner critic, and none of us are any exception. And, that critic can get out of hand at times and go a bit wild and crazy and tell us that we can't do these things. And in fact, we actually are, actually a human being that is quite powerful and quite able.
Yes. And I wonder also, someone like yourself, you live the business. And someone like me, for instance, people might not think this, but I'm an inherently shy person.
Really?
So that even though I talk on the air, no worries, and I do the breakfast show, have a bit of a laugh. Put me in a room where you say to me, which I went to a conference last week, and I had to talk in front of 20 people. I hate that sort of stuff. Why is it? Here you are, and me coming to see you, I said, I can do that. I could read 100 books. Yes, I'm empowered.
Yeah.
But when I get out there, I think,
yeah.
I've got to put those books into real stuff now. It ain't going to work.
Because we've got knowledge and we've got applied knowledge.
Yeah.
And the fact is that you've got the knowledge, but you haven't applied it at the end of the day. So you would work out some strategies and ways that you'd cut that inner critic out. So you'd work out some. So, for instance, we'll work with that. So, let's say you do want to be able to speak in front of a group of people, and you want to have the power back in your own hands around that. So, just as you do when you talk on the radio, and you back yourself for what you're doing on the radio, when you came to talk to the 20 people, you'd have some strategies around how you do that. So some of them might be, before you get up there, hey, it's just as simple as being on the radio. It's just that I'm in front of a bunch of people.
I tried all that.
Yeah, and I'm okay at this. I'm actually really worthy of being able to speak to these people because what I'm talking about, I know about. Now, the fact that you may or may not know about it, you can still give yourself the credit that you're actually brave enough to stand up there and speak about it. And it only takes, it's practice. It's, the best speakers always say, even in front of, 1,000 people or 1 million people, the presidents of the world, they always say, before they get up there, they're always nervous.
Yeah.
And I heard once that everyone on Oprah Winfrey's show, when they finish with Oprah Winfrey, always go, and how was that? They always want to know, after they've finished the entire thing, how was that? Was that okay?
How
Was the
did I
question
do?
They always want to know, how did they do?
Yeah.
And the fact is they might be the most mind-amazing, blowing person, but they still want to know, was I okay,
Self-doubt, it must be the core of your business, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We do look at self-doubt. We do look at self-sabotage. We look at self-empowerment because everything all comes back to you, And my whole philosophy that I work with people on is that you can design your life. You can make choices that liberate you. The fact that you may not be aware of those choices, or the fact that you might feel that those choices might be too scary, that's what stops you. It's either fear or love. We're always working between those two parts in our lives, right throughout the day, we either come from fear or we come from love. So when you went in front of all those people, you were coming from fear. If you could just give yourself a little bit of love and just say, hey, look, they're supporting me. They want to hear what I've got to say.
Exactly. Which is a great segue into our first topic, which is affirmation and visualization. What we just talked about there was really about those things, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I am is the most powerful words you can say. So when you say I am scared, I am unable to speak to these 20 people, I am, you will be it,
Yeah.
In fact, interestingly, my daughter just came away from a leadership thing yesterday and she said, Mum, and I've told her this, but, it's interesting what they learn. She said, I said, what did you learn today? And she said, I learnt that if you think you can and if you think you can't, you're right.
Yep.
And
right.
I mean, I've said that to her before, but it's, you sometimes just got to hear it in a different way for it to actually get in. And so that I am discourse is so powerful. So when we say an affirmation, we can talk about an affirmation being, I am tired. Okay. When you do get tired, and physically our bodies will get tired when we're straining them, when we're stressed, when we're doing things. One of the things you can do is, rather than saying I'm tired, when you're meeting people, you can say, I'm recharging.
Yeah.
I am recharging. And by the end of the day, by golly, you're going to be recharged.
Although I will put it to you that what you do on a daily basis probably, in a good way, comes very naturally to you. You're obviously a very confident person. I don't believe that you learned that. You might have learned some of the finer points of it, but I would have to suggest that, I might be totally wrong, but I would think that right through your whole life you've been an in-your-face type confident person. Would I be right or wrong?
It's interesting. I'm not sure that I'd say that I was totally confident. I've been able to overcome some of my fears. When I was at school, I went in the speech competition. I was as nervous as anything, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the connection, and I enjoyed the feeling that it gave me. It gave me a euphoric feeling once I'd overcome my fear. And that's what I sort of work with people on is how can you overcome that fear and get to that moment of aha, or that moment of wow, I did it, because there's just nothing like it. That feeling is amazing.
Did you go into the speech competition because you wanted to, even though you're a bit afraid of it? Did you go into it on that basis, or did you go into it on the basis that I'm a bit scared, but I'm going in that?
No,
was it your choice?
I was quite hesitant. Actually, a teacher said to me that I should do it, and I was like, really, should I? And then I spoke to my father, and he said, yes, come on, you can do it. And so we hatched a cunning plan on what I'd say, and it was quite fun because we wanted to make people laugh. Because Dad was like, come on, you've got to make them laugh. You'll get them straight away if you can make them laugh.
Right, exactly.
So I did. And guess what it was on, Ken?
Was it on being shy?
No, it was actually on ads on TV.
Was it really?
Yeah, all the different ads all strung together into a story.
Yeah.
But I was doing all the actions. So I don't know if you can remember, but there was a guy on TV that used to do the tyres, and he used to say...
I know, Vince.
Vince Martin, yeah. And what did he used to say? Something about it being great or something. Something about, I can't even remember now, but anyway, it was like, and bringing up all the fun things. So it was a fun time, and I really enjoyed it. But I certainly was not a confident person before that, in front of people like that.
No.
Yeah, and I was certainly not one of the kids at school that, was like one of the popular ones or anything like that. I wasn't. I was kind of in the middle. I was always, just away from that, yeah.
Okay. Well, the other thing we're going to talk about was visualization. Affirmations, visualization, you see the end result. Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah, so visualization is not just about seeing it too. There's a thing called seeding, and seeding is about the feeling of what you're visualizing. So for you to want to, say for instance, we're wanting to visualize talking in front of those 20 people. So beforehand I'd say to you, okay, Ken, let's sit down and think about what it feels like to stand in front of those 20 people and talk. And immediately you'd be like, it's scary.
That's
and
right.
Look, I'm not breathing. And I'd just show you how your posture changed when you started to think about it. And so you can recognise the cues in your body. So you can start to go, okay, well, I just need to drop my shoulders. I might
chill out a bit.
But I might do some breath exercises before I go out there, and start visualising how they're going to respond to you. Start visualising how you're going to make them feel. Start visualising how they're going to respond back to you, like what you're going to do next and the next thing. So, it's really, visualisation is incredibly powerful. It's one of those things that in our mind, we barely use the power of our mind and what we're capable of. So visualisation is one of those things that you can really sit down and start thinking, okay, and you don't need to think about every aspect of your life. Just think about portions, take one step at a time of something that's going to work for you.
Sounds good, sounds easy, but if I came to see you and said, I've got these problems, blah, 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 how long before or how soon before I'm that up guy that can sit in front of 20 people and give them that chat?
Oh, Ken, it's going to be overnight, Ken, just like that. No.
I know. I'm one of those guys. I'm like a sponge. I soak it up.
You just be straight in there. No, it's really just depends on the person and really how much they want to change, because you can change once you decide to. It's making the decision, and that's often the thing that stops us, because we're creatures of habit, and oftentimes we've gotten ourselves into a space where we're not so good to ourselves. And so what's the next step? Well, we have to change some of that mindset and create some better habits.
And speaking of that, the power of the mind. You're listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is Ignite Yourself, living life on your terms. Before we talk about the power of the mind, just remind our listeners we want to come and see you about changing the way we think and how we do things. How do we do that?
So get a hold of me through my website, www.soulpreneurs.co.nz. So think of soul, S-O-U-L, and then preneur, like an entrepreneur, but for your soul, .co.nz. Or else you can contact me, Carol, at soulpreneurs.co.nz.
Now, the last time we spoke, we mentioned a book called The Power of the Mind by John Kehoe. You want to talk some more about the power of the mind? Because the mind is very powerful, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And John talks about it being, we are sitting on a gold mind.
Yes.
I kind of think is cute. And it's true, because, we are, as I say, incredibly powerful. But oftentimes we've given our power away. We have decided that we can't do something. We're living in fear. We're living in restriction. We may have been brought up in fearful circumstances. There's lots of things that cause us to live the life and be where we're at right now. And none of those things are wrong. No, it's really important to understand that you were dealing with whatever you were dealing with right up to where you are right now. So you've come on a journey to where you are right now, and none of it makes you wrong in any way. But then moving forward, what is it that you want to do, that you want to change, that you want to look at? And so the mind has lots of things, and thoughts are things. So we create our reality from our thoughts.
I often say to people that I use that old saying, a leopard never changes its spots, and
Yes.
I'm a firm believer of that.
I know,
And
we've had conversations.
We have. But I wonder, and people often say, look, if you could go back and live your life over, what would you do differently? And most of us say, well, I'd do this and I'd do that, I'd turn left instead of turning right. But I don't believe we would. I think we'd probably end up on the same track. Of course, the power of hindsight, if you went back with all the knowledge in your head. But if you could wind the clock back and say, okay, there you go, you're back in 1965, what are you going to do differently? Do you really think that people would do much differently?
It's a case-by-case basis, actually. Some people definitely would want to make some changes because some of the heartache that they've had to endure wasn't necessary, if you like, but it has made them who they are. So it's them being able to accept the fact that even though they chose to stay with a man that beat them, or be born to parents that abuse them, or go out with that guy that raped them, or whatever it might be. The fact is that it still brought them to where they are right now. So it's been able to, and it's not easy, but it's certainly been able to look back and say, I accept where I was. I accept that at that time I made that choice. I accept at that point when whatever happened, that was where I was, and I was doing the very best I could at that moment.
I suppose most of life is lived on emotion, though, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. And our emotions are so... they're our way of communicating with our feelings, because we are feeling human beings, and emotions and feelings are quite different. So it's actually working and unravelling that and getting people to understand that, even though you're feeling something, that's coming from an emotion, but the two of them are, don't have to be linked quite so much. And you aren't your story. You are not, who you say you are. You can be something different tomorrow, so you can change your spots. That's what that's
what you think.
That's what I think. Yeah, that's why we have this lovely debates about it.
That's
and
right.
and I think it is because it's just a decision. It's really only a decision, and that's the power of the mind.
Do you find that many people who come see you are short term in what they do? That I would read, for instance, I read John Kehoe's book, and I thought, wow, what a great book.
And you were inspired.
I was inspired.
1972 when you wrote it,
right.
yeah.
But then, a week later, I wasn't living the book. You probably lived the books. But so do you find that people come along with a big hiss and a roar, and then they do end up being who they are? They want to be like you because you're out there waving the flag. You've got the big sword in your hand. You're leading from the front, but they aren't. They're following you, and as soon as you're not there, they fall by the wayside.
Yeah, so motivation, yes, it's you've got to have the motivation. You've got to have the will to want to change. It's just like giving up smoking or giving up drinking or any of those things that you decide to do. You've got to start with the end in mind. You've got to start with realising that actually this is no longer serving me. I'm at a place in my life where I need to make some changes. And they could just be very small, because this is the thing, it doesn't have to be drastic changes. It doesn't have to be, I'm leaving her, she doesn't let me watch Koro, and,
That's right.
it doesn't have to be that big. It can be something quite minor, because at the end of the day, it's all about actually finding your joy, because, the most important thing is that we feel good. And you don't have to feel good with drugs or any of those other things. It's about feeling good in who you are.
Some great analogies that you made there. I mean, for instance, there's so many people who think, geez, I look in the mirror, geez, I'm fat. I'm going on a diet, and I'm going to start feeling good about themselves. That's what happens. But all of a sudden they think, geez, I haven't had a donut since Adam was a cowboy. And I love that sort of stuff. I haven't had a pie. And all of a sudden, 6 months down the track, they have a pie, they have a donut. And those are the things that made them happy. They're not even happy dieting.
Right.
It might be great for them. They might look better. They might be fitter. But they really aren't happy because they want a donut.
Yeah. And you know what? It's okay to have things in moderation. It's okay to have that one donut or that one pie or whatever it is that you are seeking that makes you happy. But it's also being able to recognise that you're on that diet because the bigger goal was X, Y, Z,
Sure.
The bigger goal was because you needed to look at, you needed to be a great mother for your children. So actually, you need to drop some pounds because, you're hitting diabetes, you're hitting heart issues, all these sorts of things. And that's even my own personal journey. I'm, got my weight's all over the place. But myself, I recognise that what it is, that's the driving factor, because it's the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? I mean, why are we sitting here having this conversation? Because it makes us feel good. Because we love doing what you do, and I love doing what I do.
Absolutely.
And this is the thing, to give people their power back is to give them back their joy.
Although I do think that people who either fall off the wagon with their dieting or their smoking or their drinking, they like doing those things. They're happier doing those, unless you're an alcoholic, of course. I mean, unless you're 45 stone. But they are quite happy being a little bit overweight because they're happy. They're happier at home. They're happy with their husband. They're happy with their kids. They're not craving stuff, which is because they're thinking about doing that all the time. Geez, I wish I could have that pie you're having. Yeah.
Yeah.
So does it work for everyone? I don't think so.
Well, I think it can, but again, they've got to make that choice. They've got to have made that decision, and then get them why that's strong enough that keeps them going. And then it's repetition. It's the mother of all skill. So, repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. It's that whole thing. And for me, when I work with clients, I'll work with them for sort of one-on-one. I'll work for about 3 months with them, because the integration of stuff can't happen overnight.
No,
so
indeed.
generally, we have to make small steps, small changes.
Indeed.
But at the end of it, if they need anything more, then they just come back and we have a bit of a tune-up again, But I've got clients that have I've got extremes. I've got clients that have completely changed their lives, and still with their original partners and everything else, but they've changed the direction in their job. They've changed the way that they get up in the morning and live their day. To the other extremes where they've just made a very, very incremental small changes, but they were enough for them to be happy with.
Do you find that some of your clients who go to the nth degree, they completely change their life, that they look at their life, their partner, their kids, and they think, this is not what I want. So, hey, you're not part of where I'm going now.
The plan, yeah.
So see you later. Does that happen? Do you find that?
I'm just trying to think if there's been anybody that's actually... Yes, there's been a couple of situations like that. The relationships weren't healthy though, anyway, so something was going to give at some point.
Yeah.
But generally, it actually enhances relationships. It's quite amazing how when people get clear on how they most want to feel, they recognise that actually you aren't the person making me feel this way. So actually I'm going to take the pressure off, this relationship, and you having to let me watch Coral or not watch Coral. I'm going to go and do this, and it's going to make everybody happy, Do
you find that journey's best made as a couple?
I have worked with couples together, and that's been fantastic too. I think it's really, again, it's case by case. It would be lovely to be able to have both of them, together, and I do great strides with both of them together. But at the end of the day, oftentimes it's just the one person that's in the relationship that's wanting to make changes.
Yeah.
And so that's okay too, because you're working with the other person. It's really quite interesting how they tend to adapt, in the relationship. The other person comes along as well, because they start to recognise, and, because your best self's coming forward. So they can't help but want to be attracted to that and come along with that,
They want to keep up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're just about out of time. We were going to talk about thoughts are things, but we won't have time to do that. So just to remind our listeners, we want to come and talk to you, Carol, about igniting ourselves and living life on our terms. How do we do that?
Sure. So you can get hold of me at Soulpreneurs, Soulpreneurs, Preneurs.co.nz, or Carol at soulpreneurs.co.nz. So check out my website, and I'd love to hear from anyone who wants to just make some changes, or just discuss stuff. It's free to have a chat. Don't charge anything for the first hour. So let's have a chat and see if we can work together.
What about for old-fashioned when we're going to give you a call on the phone? What's your phone number?
So call me on my mobile, 021 774 058, and we can touch base, have a coffee, and it could be not even just for yourself. It could be someone that you know of. I often get that, and that's quite interesting too, because people refer someone else to me, and I'm like, oh, do they even want to be referred? Right. But it's quite fun because we get to have a bit of a chat, and quite often it works out well anyway. But yeah.
Good on you, Carol. As was our pleasure. You look after yourself. We'll talk to you same time, same place next time.
Thanks, Ken. Awesome.